Oh, sorry. Yeah. Yeah, doing a Charlie Manson interview. Anyway, all right, Nick video, and I'm doing it on YouTube. I figured, yeah, just to publicize the fact that me and Nick are maintaining a conversation, and it's kind of, it's like the good old days. We're talking about the brain again and what's going on in there, and so it's good. So go to Vlogger Dome, and the videos are there and such, and it's good stuff. Yeah, it really is. I mean, the rest of this crap is kind of irrelevant if we don't know what we're doing. What's going on in here? All right. So anyway, we're coming up with metaphors, attempting to describe the function, make distinctions between feelings and thoughts. At least that's where I'm kind of stuck a little bit. And we're going to put over there for now, just for now, this whole idea of trying to argue the significance of our conscious experience. What does it all add up to? One man, one consciousness equals what? I think it's really important. Suffering and such, yeah. But, Nick's not convinced yet. So, but we're putting that off. Anyway, so we're moving on. Alright, so Nick's latest video, he sort of was metaphoring that there's categories or buckets that these things come out of. And that somehow we have to make some kind of sense out of this. And I use the example of, like, which I thought was a good metaphor, is that somebody makes an argument, like a Pyrrho, and I look at it and I say, oh, what a horrible, stupid argument. I will build myself a lightning bolt of logic, and I'll throw it through his fucking skull. Okay, now there's two elements to that. There's the logical lightning bolt of something rational, good argument, and then there's that crazy thing that's throwing it. But right there, that's sort of the answer, is that there's two elements to our psychology. The motivator, the thing that does the throwing, right, that just throws shit at the conscious screen, and the shit that's getting thrown, that's composed by the other part of the brain. So that automatically got me thinking in terms of metaphors for that. And I'm back to the 7 dwarf thing. But let's make it 15 dwarfs. It doesn't really matter. And let's just say they come in 2 varieties. Hysterical. And these dwarfs are really, let's not get to infinite regression. But basically I'm saying there's little men inside your head. No, they're not full little people. Like they don't have a wife and a life and all that kind of stuff. They are sort of like these dwarfy characters where they're just one thing. Like Sneezy was one thing, Sneezy. And Sleepy was one thing, Sleepy. They're simplified characters, kind of just little robots of agenda. So there's 2 varieties, right? There's the smart ones, okay, the logic-y ones, the E equals mc squared, and he just walks around. Well, they don't walk, let's say. He's just sitting on the couch with the other intellectual dwarfs, and they're just going, E equals mc squared. And the other guy's saying, pi times WR4. And, they're arguing. They're not even arguing. They're just spouting their crap all the time. Like they have an agenda. Like they know something. And so they're just talking all that bullshit as they sit on the couch. But see, that's the problem with them. They have no motivation. All they do is talk. Talk, 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 talk. And they don't go anywhere. They don't do anything. But the secret is they got a little pointy head. So remember that for later. Alright, then you got these other kind of dwarf, alright, and they're all loonies. I mean, there's like hysterical, cryy, whiny, wimpy, and they're all worried, and they're all panicky, and they're all, oh, you gotta do something, and they're just all fucking, yeah. And that's all they do, is just be hysterical assholes, and they're banging off the walls all over the place, because they're always trying to get out. They're always trying to get something done. And they're trapped, let's say, in a steel building because they live in a lava plain. Alright? So some of the dwarfs are scared to death of the lava. And let's call the lava suffering. So they're always threatened by this discontent that might fly into their little cottage and burn their fucking feet off. And some of them are just hysterical about it. They're just, I can't stand this. I can't stand this. I can't stand this. And they're just worried all the time because they want to like make a chair or do something so they can get off the ground so they can get their feet burnt. And the intellectuals, well, yeah, they don't really care because they're on the couch and they're high, and a little bit of lava, who cares? They're just not concerned. Um, so if you get so this is the story. This is the metaphor. It would make a pretty good movie, I think. I mean, Disney was pretty smart, in the sense that he built these characters, but instead of mimicking them off of different kinds of people, he he just should have thought, no, wait a minute, we could just mimic them off the people in our own head. Um, and he should have had a little greedy in there, and a little selfish, fuck your best friend's wife in there, and all these other little fuckers that are inside of us. So anyway, so they're emotional characters, but they aren't doing the feeling thing like Raw. They're just doing the emotion thing, which is different. The passion thing. I mean, I was even thinking like another metaphor for like desire would be the wind. And every now and then the wind blows. And there's one of the little dwarfs who says, he's like sailor dwarf, and he puts up the sail and says, let's go, And, but the point is the intellectuals have to open the door. They got the pointy head. And the only way to poke your way out is one of those pointy heads has to go in first. So the hysterical guys have to either pick up one of the smart guys and push him through, poke a hole to get out, or the intellectuals have to grab one of the hysterical guys and ride his back into the wall. That would be my metaphor, is they can only get out. They can only get into our consciousness and into action, okay, together. A thought has to be tied to a feeling, or it's not going to get through. That's the only way to that's the only way to get the hell out of the cottage, into consciousness, or whatever you want to call it. They're just trapped in this subconscious, or in the jabber that goes on inside your brain. That little whiny noise you hear is them banging against the walls, and the intellectuals yelling and screaming. Like even when I went to make this video, there was all kinds of little voices. I could metaphor this, do that, do this, the infinite regression, blah, 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 blah. I mean, all this noise from these assholes. And, I had to. It got filtered. And this came through. Somebody grabbed something. So I'd almost argue that there's maybe one hysterical dwarf that's listening to the jabber of the intellectuals. And when one of the intellectuals says, wow, I think that's a really good idea, he pays attention because he knows that other intellectual thing just did something smart. And so he tends to go over there and grab that smart guy, the one that just got praised, and, move towards the door to get that fucker out, because we have confirmation that a good idea has been arrived upon. And he's just in a panic. His whole panic is, do the good thing. Logic. Yeah, it's really important. We gotta get the smart guys out of here. We gotta save the smart guys. We gotta save, that's what his agenda. So anyway, I mean, I know this is a little bit juvenile, but I know. I mean, obviously we don't have dwarfs in our head, so this is still metaphoring. But I think it's more useful than buckets, I guess is sort of what I'd say. In that I think we can get the distinction that some things are more complicated players. Like you can even turn them into animals, the dwarfs. A certain kind of animal and a certain other kind of animal that's panicky, and you can break the metaphor down more specifically. Squirrels and ants, or grasshoppers and ants, or something. Whatever. But I think the idea that raw sensation, like, a knife cuts my hand, that's the lava. That's something different. The dwarfs react to it because it's coming towards the house. And all the dwarfs react. The intellectuals talk about, well, the melting temperature of our walls is 1,500 degrees, and blah, blah, and they start talking about maybe what this is going to mean. And then the panicky dwarfs are doing their panicky thing, like, oh no, it's going to be 1938 all over again. They're doing they do what they're doing. They do whiny, cryy, wimpy, and then they're stoic. There's the little Professor Anton. He's got his flag in his hand, and he just stands there and says, I'll take it, like a man. That's us. That's who we are. I mean, to me, it is a good metaphor for working with what ends up being the end product. Is that, but the key idea, I guess, is what I'm saying is that for an idea, ideas need the reinforcement of the motivating emotion. Ideas won't do anything. They'll just sit on the couch in our brain unless they can tie themselves to a motivating emotion. That was even another scenario I could have added in here. Was I was thinking that, like the couch players, the intellectuals, they have a little bit of string, and so they can tie up some of these emotional guys, but they only have enough to like tie up 3 of them at a time, and so they're always changing who has to be tied up. Okay, which hysterical emotional guy is out of control, you know, and is going to, you know, push something through too soon or do something too messy. And so they're going to have 3 of them tied up at a time. They only have 3 straitjackets. And so that would add another scenario that goes on inside our head, is this, what gets inhibited and what is our theme of the week. I mean, it does seem like we have weekly themes of which crazy fucks are loose inside of our head. You know, who's sailing the wind, or what wind is blowing. So yeah, I'm mixing metaphors now, which is probably not a good idea. All right, but the point is instead of, I just think we gotta understand that these are different structural things. The landscape is different from the things playing in the landscape. And like I said, and you avoid infinite regression by just making these dwarf guys really simple. Like there's just, you know, science, like algebra guy and geometry guy. They're all different guys. You know, medical knowledge guy. You know, so I mean, you could get into thousands of them eventually, maybe. But the point is that they're simply motivated. They're crude characters, not complex characters. So there isn't like somebody less complex inside of their head. I don't have to put a mover inside of them. So I'm not stuck in some sort of infinite regression where I have to keep putting little dwarfs inside of the emotional hysterical guy. He's a simple composite player, and he doesn't need any dwarfs in his head to do what he's doing, because what he's doing is so robotic and so predictable and so automatic. Yeah, okay. Let's see where else I have to go. So, I mean, you know, to go back to your metaphor, Nick's metaphor of the lightning bolt, you could almost argue, too, that maybe the lightning bolt, the logic has to be dipped in the emotion bucket. You know, it has to be dipped in that to give it the sharpness it needs to get out of us and into somebody else. To get thrown, it has to be dipped first, if you want to stick with your bucket metaphor. Alright, so yeah, and I guess, again, there's the intellectual part of us just doesn't really want to get off the couch, and so it has to, the only way it can do anything is it has to have a motivator, it has to have anger, it has to have something that's going to pick it up and push it out the door. Because it won't go out the door by itself. It has no motivation. It just likes to talk. It just likes to think. It doesn't have agenda. And so it needs agenda to get out the door. An agenda is just these simple, crude, let's go down the list, you know, you know, greedy, sleazy, horny, snotty, fucky, shitheady, whatever. I mean, all the little fucknuts of transient emotion. And some of them they kill. You know, the intellectuals can kill one. I mean, I had one that was caught up in sports for a while, and they just killed him. They just said one day, the intellectual was talking about sports, stupid, yeah, stupid, yeah, blah, blah. And so instead of putting it in a straitjacket, they apparently have a gun, and they can shoot these guys. And they just shot the fucker. They just shot him. They just said, fuck you, shut up. But, you know, she was always going, it's almost 9 o'clock. Oh, it's almost 9 o'clock. The ball game's going to be on. The ball game's going to be on. God, it's almost 9 o'clock. You know, and they just said, fuck you. And they shot him. So, yeah. But anyway. Yeah, that's probably enough to push the conversation one notch further. But yeah, I know I got to nail this down to something more neural net associations with ideas. But I mean, the idea that we have concepts tied to emotions, like algebra for me. I think algebra. As soon as I hear the word, I think of my whatever 8th grade algebra teacher. And then that creates an emotion, and then it's so I mean, there's emotion tied to this stuff whether we like it or not, because there's life experience where we glean the knowledge of these concepts, and so that's part of it. And also part of it is understanding that, oh, nuclear bombs blow up the world. So if I so I end up connecting a physics to an agenda of Mars arising Earth or something like that. I mean, so it ends up getting tied together whether you like it or not. There's a chain that you could tie it together with. So you don't need to create this metaphor of characters, but the characters are built into the wiring of the programming. The connections are, let's say, linearly doing logic, and then horizontally doing emotion. So you can almost think of it that way, is that there's a linear movement through logic, so it's everything seeping down into logical roots and structure, and then emotion comes out of the side of that and creates a whole nother interconnectiveness, and that would explain the function of the two, the way the two are tied together, that the logic is working within the framework of emotion, and that emotion is working within the control of a logic network that doesn't allow the emotion to get out of control. Yeah, that's pretty good. Alright, so we'll call it enough of a video. And yeah, I mean, this is sort of, like I said, it's sort of important, because the more we understand just how that even where even this idea that we are we feel like we're a piece of art, and we're this spontaneous thing, and I gotta be me, and all this kind of crap. We're all charmed by our little unique snowflakey bullshit. We can dissect it, and we can just say, no, it's an ice crystal. Okay, this is what it's made out of. It's made out of this spooky thing, and these loopy things can happen, and this can happen, and that can happen. So there's 1,000 elements of possible structure that go into us, and you can mix up those 1,000 in a lot of unique ways. But the basic structure is dirt simple. There's simple things motivating us, and those motivations and that structure has been evolved by a system that has absolutely no credibility as an engineer. It's only engineering for two things: consumption and reproduction. Long-term survival would be the one thing that it's oriented towards. There's nothing else being measured. There's nothing else being scrutinized. Live long and prosper, period. And prosper by just survive. So it's just survive. It's survive and reproduce. That's it. There's nothing else happening here. Survive to reproduce. That's how crude the agenda is that's created us. And we have all of those markings. We can see that blueprint. If you just take a little bit of time and look inside yourself, you can see just how fucking stupid it all is. And that's really important for people to get, that they're chasing something they can't have. Alright, you're just not going to get it. You're never going to have enough potato chips. You're never going to have enough days of life. You're just never going to. You're just going to keep it's just what's the word for it? The wind won't stop blowing until you stop blowing. The whole thing is just feeding itself. You're the snake eating its own tail thing. It's just doom. It's stupid. Let it go. Okay. Reproduction for the sake of reproduction. Not for the sake of something else. Not for an accomplishment. Not to do anything useful. And look at the price paid for it. fucking brain tumors, kids with leukemia. It's disgusting. Let it go. Anyway, so thanks, Nick. Like I said, I do. There's some little turd inside of my head who, who's applauding. He's, oh, good, 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 yeah, good.